Hi guys, there seems to be more and more people willing to step forward and admit that they voted for Brexit based on a lie. I think this is important for two reasons. First, the more the Tories align themselves with Brexit, the more it will damage their chances at the next general election. And second, in order to convince people that Britain should seek to rejoin the EU, the first step has to be for those who voted to leave to come forward and admit that Brexit has been a failure. However, I believe many members of the public don't fully understand the damage Brexit is doing at the moment. Here, Ellie from Camden is one of those people.
I'd like to give you my take on two concerns, one being Brexit and two being the NHS, if I may.
Of course.
Well, Brexit, I unfortunately voted for Brexit, and I did so not because of immigration, which I think is just a carrot. We're going to fix it, we're going to fix it. They don't fix anything. It's pretty cruel. But I voted because I felt that Europe was moving towards too much to the far right. We seem to be doing the same thing. I think what would reduce the damage of Brexit would be if Rishi Sunak, who is quite good at nuance, went over to Northern Ireland and reinstated the basic agreement, because then Europe and Macron might forgive us, and we might be able to trade more easily, and Biden would then open trade with us. And that would bring us in a lot of money, which we are missing. I can't think why the man isn't doing that. So that's my take on Brexit.
Okay. A few things to say about this. First of all, I don't know why she voted for Brexit if she believed that the EU was moving too much to the far right. Yes, there are far-right parties in Europe, but there are far-right parties in every country in the world. So I'm not sure why she voted to keep the far right out, or to get out of Europe because she thought it was moving too much to the far right. And, you know, she said here as well that she's concerned about how the UK is moving to the far right. But the second part about this will help trade. If the Northern Ireland Protocol is implemented, it won't. That's the problem here. Many people seem to think that the reason the UK is suffering as a consequence of Brexit is because the EU is punishing the UK in some way. It's not. It doesn't work like that. People need to understand what being a third country actually means. The problem also with the Brexit rhetoric was, yes, we can be outside the single market and the customs union and be treated like as if we were in it. And yes, that was nice rhetoric at the time, but it was based on a lie. The experts were saying, no, if we put up barriers to trade, we're going to suffer the consequences of that. The problem was with the Brexiteers, and I'm talking about the politicians and those commentators who were shouting about the benefits of Brexit the loudest from the rooftops. They were saying everything will be fine. They were saying, yes, the economy will actually do better outside the EU. And if anyone were to say that there will be any serious problems related to trade, they don't understand our standing in the world. They're engaging in Project Fear. Remember, the EU needs us more than we need them. You know, the Jacob Rees-Moggs of this world. But implementing the Northern Ireland Protocol will not help trade because the UK is outside the single market. In order to improve trade, the UK needs to align more with the single market and eventually try to rejoin the EU. And remember, the UK has to rejoin the EU in order to access the single market. There is another way, but it's unlikely. The most likely possible access to the single market is through the EU. And unfortunately, I think a lot of Brexiteers, not Brexiteers, but people who voted for Brexit, don't understand that. They think that, well, we just need to be, you know, we can resolve these problems diplomatically. No, this is about trade. There is a reason why it's important and it's better to be inside the single market than outside it. Many people were warning about this. And unfortunately, you had the likes of Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg on the other side saying everything will be fine. It's good that Ellie has come forward and being honest about this. I think it's very important that there are people being honest, because you need to be honest. You have to admit, yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I've damaged my country. Now, people did it for racist reasons. People did it because they were their minds were poisoned. Many people did it because they honestly thought things were going to improve. They saw how the NHS was suffering. Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers said, don't worry, we're going to fix it because we'll be outside the EU. People saw their communities, mass unemployment in their communities. The Brexiteers are saying, don't worry, we'll resolve this by leaving the EU. So they sold a dream. They sold the sunlit uplands. And of course it was a lie. And people are starting to see that now. But it will not be so easy to fix. And I think we have to be honest with people. It's going to take time. First, the UK needs to rejoin the EU. And you need to convince the people who voted for Brexit first. The people who voted leave didn't want, the people who voted to remain are already pretty much convinced it's a good idea to rejoin. But the people who voted leave need to be convinced. They need to convince themselves, or they need to be convinced that the way out of this is for the UK to rejoin the EU and then eventually rejoin the single market. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.